Thank you. Yeah. So, namaste, India.
Okay.
Yes, I have my beautiful guest with me, which is my yoga teacher. I'll call her my spiritual teacher, Allyson. So, Allyson is here, and I'll let her introduce herself, and then we will go further. Yes, Allyson.
Okay. So
So,
I'm
I'm
Allison,
Allison,
and
and
I
I
have
have
been
been
doing
doing
yoga
yoga
for
for
probably
probably
about
about
15
15
years
years
almost at
almost
this
at this
point,
point,
on and
on and
off.
off.
I
I
started
started
when
when
I
I
was,
was,
see, I
see, I
feel
feel
like
like
an echo, I'm
echo, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I
I
started
started
doing
doing
yoga
yoga
to
to
help with
help with
training
training
of
of
the
the
marathon
marathon
because I
because I
felt
felt
I
I
needed to
needed to
stretch
stretch
out,
out,
otherwise I
otherwise
would
I would
really
really
slow.
slow.
And
And
I
I
found that
found
it
that it
really
really
helped
helped
center
center
me,
me
and it
and it
helped in
helped in
all
all
facets of
facets
my
of
life.
my life. So that's you started the yoga kind of, but then you start teaching it. At first, you started.
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
the
the
thing
thing
is,
is,
there
there
was
was
my
my
teacher,
teacher,
MC
MC
Sweet,
Sweet,
at
at
Lotus
Lotus
House of
House of
Yoga
Yoga
here in
here in
Omaha.
Omaha.
And
And
she used to
used
be
to
my
be my
daughter's
daughter's
dance
dance
instructor.
instructor.
And when she opened her studio, it was one of those things that she kept asking me, do you want to ever teach or what have you? And she's like, you don't even have to learn you can go through yoga teachers um, training literally just to learn more. You don't have to teach. And so I expected that I wasn't even ever going to teach. And lo and behold, I've been teaching on and off for 6 years.
That's so wonderful that it's been 6 years you have been teaching. And just tell me about the class that the particular class, which is like heart yoga that you're teaching. Tell me something about that particular class.
Okay, so I got into Bikram yoga because that's where I actually started. And what I liked about that, it was really a moving meditation. And it was a nice counterbalance to all of the running that I had been doing at that time, because you weren't standing in poses too long where your legs were going to be on fire. It was, you were moving, but it was not like the Vinyasa movement or the Hatha movement. So um, when I started doing the training, I trained in all of the other areas, but I was the most comfortable in working and practicing Bikram. And I loved the heat, and it felt like a true workout versus it was it was a little bit more intense, and that's kind of what I liked about it. As I began to teach it, that kind of happened because I had talked to another yoga instructor, and they needed somebody to uh, learn the series to teach. And since I had been practicing there and I had just gone through yoga training, they asked me if I wanted to just try a few classes and teach. And that's how I got into that particular area. And then what I found out is that there weren't a lot of those types of teachers in Omaha to teach the hot series. And then what we found is that not everybody wanted to actually teach the 90 minutes because the students didn't want to be there for 90 minutes. So we kind of created this hybrid, which there was an hour one, there was a 45-minute one, an hour and 15. And then when I was at Lighthouse, we kind of merged it with the vinyasa in a way that there was also music behind it as well, which people, I think, like yourself, like really thoroughly enjoyed because it paced the class a little bit better for them mentally to kind of make it into more of a spiritual meditative type practice.
So I was coming to the same question. Well, first, you tell me why we call it vinyasa. Is it because of the heat, or there is some other philosophy behind it? And then the second one question is that you said, beside the physical fitness, how it impacted you spiritually. Does it like you had some personal spiritual experiences with it at certain point that you thought your chakras has been awakening and your third eye has been you're seeing things more clear and now the world is more clear and everything is making sense?
Well, I would say, first of all, vinyasa is more of the practice where all the pieces are tied together, flowing. So when you think um, of like a downward dog, then you go to maybe more of a chaturanga. Everything is flowing together. So Bikram, there was a Bikram Bikram himself is not the greatest person, but he created this series. And when he created this series, it doesn't flow together. It's actually pretty stagnant. But what it does, it opens up areas of the body to help with it's supposed to hit every single chakra. Um, and the movement of the 26 poses that is repetitive every time that you practice is supposed to get you further and further and further into that meditative state. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I find I'm not really centered when I don't do yoga. And during this pandemic, I can't totally say that I've been doing yoga, although I found different teachers from online, because even I, as a teacher, you want to be able to connect to that spiritual place in the mind and not to be the teacher in your head. You want to just be able to let go and feel what you feel and find the centering and listen to the breath. And when you're teaching it, you can't necessarily do that as you're practicing it.
Tell me a little bit about that fire breath. Especially that was the only the practice that I did in your class, the fire breath. How what is its significance?
Oh, the breathing at the very end. It's supposed to help. Well, besides like clearing through the chakras, but it's supposed to finally get that breath out, the stale air that is sitting at the very, very bottom of the lungs. It's supposed to be able to pull all of that out and get only the good air, the good oxygenation through the system. So it kind of it's a clearing.
Yeah. So one other question, like as you said, the clearing the bottom, which they call the there is a expiratory reserve volume. Like there is the lung capacity when you're doing basically lung functionals test. You have the inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, and total lung capacity. So it's like and there is like oh my god, I forgot that. I wish
That's
I was
okay.
good with yeah. There is like one is the liter, like for example uh, tidal volume, expiratory or residual volume. These are the volumes in the lung, the amount of air that we breathe in or we exhale. And still there is some like almost 500 ml of years air which is still in the bottom. And when you're exhaling that, in a way it comes to my mind because that we have two in a way like yeah, one is the central nervous system, which is brain, and another is the peripheral nervous system, which is like sympathetic and parasympathetic, which is called like autonomic nervous system. So yoga is basically like sympathetic is fight and fright when you're running, when somebody's chasing you like an animal. It's like
This
you run
hits
away.
parasympathetic.
Yeah, it's yoga is more calm effect, is parasympathetic.
Yes.
But then you're kind of I say exacerbating the both, like in a way that the breath, the way you're like that breathing itself, the heart
Expansion of the belly, pushing it out.
yes, like it's kind of you're exciting more of your um, autonomic nervous system, which is kind of accelerating, and that is having an impact on your heart rate, on your lung, on your digestions and the intestinal motility. So tell us about, have you felt different since teaching yoga or doing it personally? So what was your experience in all the systems that's functional, like heart, GIT tract, and breathing?
Wow, that's a big question. Um, so whether I'm practicing, I guess, in a like as a teacher, or whether I'm practicing just practicing, I would say that um, when I'm practicing personally, I I'm definitely I don't know about you, but I feel working in the sympathetic nervous system where I feel very calm when I'm done. So it is, even though you're accelerating the heart rate towards the begin, like at the end of the practice, by doing the breath of fire, and you're pulling that air up and expelling it and utilizing that lower part of the belly. Um, I feel as though I it's very calming at the very end. And actually, throughout the practice, at least of the Hot 26 or Bikram, they actually, like, you'll see there's that one that is like the wind release pose, just for not saying any of the other types of poses, but the wind release pose, if you don't do it for a while, you will feel it in the gastrointestinal. And when you start doing that, you feel that compression on the lower belly, and that does help with digestion. Even with a vinyasa and you're using a bolster and you're lying flat on the belly, that also helps with digestion. When I do a yin class, that there are plenty of types of yin class that I've taught, and even that I've been a participant in, that they're using like more of Chinese medicine with the points within the body, and that lead to the liver and lead to the lungs and all of that. And you do feel a difference, but you have to really obviously be open to that and keep practicing that as you are exploring the different types of yoga.
Um, Thank you, Allyson. One other question which I wanted to ask you, just sorry, I'm just kind of, I to the screen, sorry, I just hit the wrong button. Sometimes it happens. And the question is about the same, like yoga make you calm. So if you, for example, if you're in the state of meditation, something happened like any fire or any danger on the way, so you get do you kind of, are you more calm with it, or you just immediately respond? Does it even help the reflexes too, when, for example, in one hand it's calming, but it definitely be making us more alert, like
Going around, you can see what's transpiring out and around you, and how everything is interrelated. At least for me, that is. But and I'm during the pandemic, I have not been able to meditate and kind of quiet that monkey mind, so to speak. So I maybe have gotten up to 20, 30 minutes at some point, but now I'm back down to sorry, my dog. I'm back down to like 5 to 10 minutes of meditation. And sometimes I even do guided meditation, because maybe my mind can't focus and allow me to actually let go. But if somebody is guiding me through it, then I can find myself meditating for 20 minutes, because I'm allowing someone else to take over. And sometimes that's what you need. Now, my favorite place to meditate is outside, with the warmth of the sun on my face and hearing the birds and all that kind of stuff. But it's harder in the winter, when you want to lay down to meditate, and then you might fall asleep. But that's not what it's about either. So.
Yeah, that's so true. So have you ever did the in Omaha we had the goat yoga too. So did you experience that? Have you teach that or were you able to participate in
Actually,
that?
I never got a chance to go to goat yoga. I've always wanted to, but I did, oh God, what is it? Not lambs. I did it with, oh my God, it was in Honey Creek, llamas. I did yogas with the llamas. Oh, I should have sent you a picture of that. But yeah, I did yoga with the llamas, and it was so much fun. So, except here's the thing: they don't interact as much. Like they're not climbing all over you, and in fact, they herd together. So you might get like four of them sitting there looking at you, and like that's all they're doing. They're staring at you. But I would love to teach with the, the teaching with the goats and or dogs or whatever. It's really about just letting go and just going with the flow. It's really not about having perfection in your postures. It's having fun with it. Have you done it?
Unfortunately, due to pandemic, I didn't. I missed it. I even registered, sign up for that, but I missed that. Now I'm waiting for that. When it's back, I'll be the first person signing up for
Yeah.
it.
You should try the llamas. It's fun.
So one other question, Alison, like, how have you heard about yoga? What inspired you to be a yoga teacher and find your guide meditation? Who guided you to be into yoga?
Um, well, uh, I wanted to try yoga. I've tried yoga many, many times throughout my life, and I was never ready for it. So, meaning that, I'd always heard that it was a really nice complement to other things. Um, and I'm tend to be very type A. And I heard it was great to just be able to let go and so on and so forth. But what I found probably 4 or 5 times when I tried to get into yoga was that my mind would never quiet. I would not feel like I'm quote unquote, really exercising because I clearly was doing like a like more of a yin or restorative type class because I didn't really know what the types of classes were at that time. And I was just always interested in trying. And then when I had been more of a proactive runner a few years back, that was just something that was calling to me because my body hurt so much. And in fact, when I did my first and only marathon, I have not ran more than 5 miles at a time. I switched completely only to yoga. Now I want to get back to running, but it's a mental. There's mental barriers, and I feel like yoga has, because it feels so good. You want to keep doing it. Like I was actually just thinking when I practiced today that I can get on my mat, and especially if somebody else is leading the practice, I literally don't even have a sense of time because I look and I'm like, oh my God, the class is almost over. So that's the beauty of Peloton. You can just back to back to back. You can just like, okay, just do another class. So
Your class is the hardest class, I would say, the fun one and the hardest. I was talking to you yesterday about the selection of your music, especially
yeah,
when it was playing, when you reached to the point where you were like kind of Surya Namaskar, the
yep.
the on one leg, and that I don't know. I was just trying to do the posture, and at that time it would like that music is like I told you. You said like we were in the class, I asked you, tell me. I wanted to listen to that music. So when kind of thing happens and I stop coming to the class, then I was thinking about. But then yesterday when I talked to you about the music, I told you that I don't want to let those feelings go. I want to live with that. I don't want to hear that. But that music is in my mind, as if it's just somebody pulling the string of my heart on those note that
Yeah.
they were playing, and I'm just like so afraid of listening to that music again. What if I don't have the same What if it didn't impact me or affect me the same way that it did in your class? You know, I told you I will be listening to that music when you get back to the class, and when you start teaching that. Maybe that was kind of my fears. Does it like, is it really happening to you, or in general in yoga practice, like when you're listening to a music, or you're reciting some holy word from scriptures, or like some mantra you're reciting, does it stay with you? Does it has more effect while doing the yoga? Or just like, tell me that.
Yeah. Um, there are times when I'm in say a vinyasa class, or even my class when I would take it from someone else, that I would close my eyes and just listen to the music. And I think that's why when Bikram created it, they didn't have music to, I mean, they had music, but he never put music to it because it's all about the breath work. And that's why it's hard to do, I feel like, during the pandemic, because there's so much that you have to change because of all of the breath work. But I feel like the music is really powerful, that transcends a person to a different place, whether it's in your mind that you can let go completely, or you can hear music that you heard when you were 5 years old or 8 years old, and you remember exactly that feeling and connection when you were 5 or 8 or 10 or 15, because it's tethered to a time in your life. So this music is tethered to a time maybe where you met a boyfriend, or it was a new relationship, right? Or whatever it might have been that was like super, super happy, or super connectivity or connectedness. And that's really what you're relating to, is like a time in your life. And then your body is just going to remember how to move. But you're actually able, I think, to kind of really release your mind, enabling your body then to move to that meditation. Does that make sense?
It did. It definitely did. But it
It does
makes
in my
more
mind.
sense.
I don't know if it does in your mind.
It makes more sense when I'm listening it to you. Like I heard psychologically, when you're doing a group activity, like going to dancing in a club, or celebrating with the community. For example, in every culture, especially we have like every culture, they have different folk cultures that they dance in the groups, in the circle.
Yeah,
Like native Indians,
yeah,
and especially our my sister-in-law, she is kind of like uh, I would like they she showed me, what I don't know what to call it. She showed me in their community, the guys, they're dancing in a group, but they're putting keeping bottles on their heads, and they're holding hands together, and kind of like, what the point I'm trying to make is that when you're doing an activity in a group, it enhances psychologically, it enhances your positive self
absolutely.
more.
There's a communal aspect to it.
Yes, true.
And
That's
that's
nice.
why yoga is so important in the community. And given the pandemic and how it's difficult to, I mean, there are some classes that are live or whatever, you do miss out. But then the thing is with your home practice, and this was, I think, with anybody who does a home practice and then also does a class practice like within a group, you get this electricity when you're with a group, this communal feel of oneness, or that there's a purpose, or you're really all listening to what the teacher might say, and it might hit somebody differently with each person, but yet there's that communal feeling of that breath, like I could, but when you do the home practice, I feel like sometimes it's a little even bit deeper, because it takes a little bit more energy to enable yourself to truly focus and concentrate. As humans, we don't focus really on ourselves, at least women, most of the time. It's kids, it's a husband, it's a boyfriend, or a girlfriend, or whatever it might be. and it's never just about us, and that gives you that 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20, whatever it is. And like, you just have to listen to your own breath and listen to what's going on in your body, the feeling of a tightness in a muscle or the hurt back or whatever it might be. But you're listening to that internal voice in your head that so many of us push down. In a group setting, you might still keep it pushed down a little bit, but in your home setting, you have to be open to listening to that.
So that was also the question that you already answered it. So the impact of yoga on the Zoom, like different classes, online classes, and then in person. Because I heard a lot of people, they give up because they says we can't feel the same way that when we are in person with other people than like in our own drawing room, because we think that when you're doing yoga in a yoga studio or outside, you feel that a different aura of energy around you, and it's kind of totally transform your energy. And but then in the same way, like, so I don't know if it's true with everyone, but this is, it's not as rewarding, as it is doing in the class or while doing
But it
online.
is. I feel like it can be, because that's how I felt. But when you create your little space, it really does, you get on your mat and you can just release what you would normally release in a class, or you can do yoga anywhere. You could be in your bedroom and put your feet up on the wall for 10 minutes, and you don't even realize how much better you feel once the blood is flowing in a different way. It's not about the teacher, the guru, the whatever. It really, once you start it, it comes from within. And that's the thing. You have your own lessons that you can learn from yourself. It has nothing to do with the teacher. And you can do it at any time. I can't hear you. Oh,
Sorry, can you hear me now?
now I
Now I
can.
muted my, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, this is our Allison. I was saying this is her, and
I'm in Sedona on Devil's Bridge.
oh, okay. I thought it's Colorado, the
No,
sausage
Sedona.
of God. Okay, it's Sedona, Arizona. And here is you again. So this is your home, our basement.
This is actually in Tucson, Arizona, that I was doing this with those ropes. And I love doing it, and I will tell you, with ropes, you get deeper into poses, and it felt like it was easy to hurt yourself. Except I loved the shavasana, because you almost like cocoon in there. It's awesome.
Yes, that's true. So you, my beside yoga, you're a mother and you work too. How you manage time between yoga and your professional life? Because you're a professional yoga teacher too. That's your hobby profession, I would call it.
Yes. For
And
20 years, I've been an executive
yeah,
recruiter
and
with
here is our
medical device
Allison
industry.
too. Allison, she is kind of doing multiple stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's
kind of the way it is in this world, right?
it is kind of like, does yoga help you in coping with the stress that comes from your profession, or it adds into the stress?
Both, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I have a very busy schedule, or when my kids were younger and I was driving here and driving there. And that was the other thing. I couldn't really start teaching a consistent class or consistent classes until my kids were driving. And so now I have a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. And so that obviously it doesn't affect it at this point. But I also have a degree in social work. And so I feel like everything that I do is, whether it's helping people find positions, I feel like I'm counseling. When I'm working as a yoga teacher, part of the component is not just teaching the actual physical movements. It's about putting your spin on it as far as how it is, how it affects the whole, like, and talking to students like yourself that become friends. And it's just, it's like a whole community that you build. And sometimes you wind up being somebody's therapist or friend or confidant. And, you know, it's stressful just like in any life profession, but just because you're a yoga teacher doesn't mean I know everything about the body or everything about how to do it. But yet, it's lovely how other people can complement what we're doing to help each other. And that's what's so beautiful about it too.
Isis, have you? Oh, yoga is basically the origin is from India. Have you been to India, or would you like to visit India?
Well, that's a funny question because no, I've never been to India. And I think I'm one of the few people who I don't have this burning desire to go to India. Like, I haven't, like, I personally, I'm Jewish. But that doesn't mean I don't believe in everything that's going on, like with the different gods in India. It's just that that's not, I love the practice, but I don't feel like I have to pretend to be something that I'm not. Like, I'm 100% me, and this stuff complements who I am. And I think it's amazing and lovely. And I love to be educated, and I love the stories and all of that. And sometimes I use that in my daily life. But I'm one of those few people, I think, that I mean, if I get there, it would be awesome, but it's not my top 10 to get there. And I don't know why. It just is.
Maybe when the calling come.
Yeah. And that's great. I feel like it has to call to me. Like, a friend and a teacher of mine, Carol Westerman, she teaches a lot of the teachers. And she actually, there's a lot of people that have gone to India through her. And I thought I would go through her to see it through her eyes, because she's so, I mean, she lives and breathes in every aspect of her life, which is so amazing. It's just not who I am right now. And it just never worked out for me to go there.
Yeah, that's wonderful because India has a very big and huge Jewish community too there.
It does?
That's
That's
Yes,
awesome.
it does have a big, very big Jewish community, and it's one of the favorite destinations of our Jewish sister and brothers. That's maybe.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially I one in towards the mountain one area. If you see, like, they have a lot of tourists and
Well, I think it's so beautiful there, but maybe my big thing was, and I could be completely wrong, for me anyway, is that I, I only hear the things that I hear coming from the United States, right? So when I'm in a different country, you hear different news. So when you're in the United States, you hear whatever news you hear, right? You can read all of the news agencies or whatever, but you're still hearing the same kind of news or whatever, when you're in the States. And I just don't like women. And I'm more of a feminist, and I think that might be one of the pieces to it, that they don't. Am I wrong culturally?
no, culturally, like, that's what my other question was, that what news you heard that kind of you know you were talking about,
Oh,
because
for me, what have I heard? It's more like, it's probably more in the rural areas, probably, or the impoverished areas. I suspect that there's like more rape, and like you hear of these stories that like there's a gang rape of, the person's on the bus and they pulled a person out. You hear stuff in the United States, but like women, I feel like women are like Indian women that I know in the United States. They're all well educated, feminist type, empowered individuals. So I find it so hard that when I hear the news that all this stuff happens. Like, how have you been so amazing? And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know where there's a disconnect and why I have that disconnect. Maybe you can help me.
Well, definitely. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Actually, the part of our this podcast is in Indian scriptures. We say Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that world is one family. The globalism, it was like the Hindu scripture thing that earth is 50 million, 40 million old, and the fossil that they have discovered even there of the whale, which also says that it's quite old. But then when I heard about the Vasudeva Kutumbakam, it was so surprising for me because I'm kind of like this globalism and feminist, and all the women characters in the scriptures were queens and were goddess and were very independent and were leading an army and nations. So yeah, definitely the thing changes, but again, the social media, this is, I think, the Vasudeva Kutumbakam that you and I and people from India, they're like all are saying good morning, namaste, and sending us flowers and greeting us. So I feel that why the especially the so it's easy for you because I memorize Quran, and then I read Bible and I read Torah.
Okay.
And now I am reading Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, which is Hindu scriptures.
Yeah.
So to my
I read that.
surprise,
I read the book.
yeah, to my surprise, it's just I feel like everything has been plagiarized from the from the books in the books, which because that's the oldest civilization and the oldest religion on earth. When nothing existed, um, the Hindu scriptures existed. That laid the foundation for all the other religion, whether it was Abraham religion, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's the Sikh religion, and what they teaches. And now, especially, can you imagine we are in Corona, and everyone is trying to kind of advertise their religion. But for me, like everybody was saying, oh, it's because we cover. It's just like mentioned to cover, and now the Corona we all cover because we were not obeying God. But then I says, oh yeah, exactly. Actually, God meant for us to value namaste, because if you shake hand, if you get closer, it means you transfer the coronavirus. So I just
Kind of an appropriation, right?
appropriation, exactly, cultural appropriation, religious appropriation. But for me especially, I start reading Vedas in a time when the pandemic and everything was world was going so crazy, and I think the only scripture which fits the today's prophecies and the indication how to kind of be saved was the namaste, and like kind of
That's
stay
great.
away,
Yeah.
stay away, and
That's so
in the
funny.
yoga
Yeah.
you maintain distance. So that's how I looked at it. And then yeah, you mentioned it that. So what was the biggest for example, did I tell you what, Hinduism, it's not a religion, it's a way of life, it's a culture and a way of life of the people who live along the Indus River. So then I don't know why they made it Hinduism, they made it a religion. It was the way of life which was practiced by different, like in the United States we have president, Congress, senators who are looking after the government affairs. Then we have army, which is looking after the defense, after the defense. And then we have the people, like common people like us, like we feed the army and the like White House or Congress, Senate, because our tax money run the government when we work, So that's how those classes, that classification of human based on the work or their functionality in the society, what chores they do in a society. So that, and then there was one class which was totally like our priests, you know, that they dedicate their whole life to preaching religion, and every religion has their priest. So, you know, dated back when they start practicing on the theaters, that the good and bad, the evil, and so it's kind of people start writing it, and that becomes a scriptures.
Yes.
So it becomes holy. So my question from you would be like, how hard was it for you being a Jewish, and then you, usually people think that Hinduism is a pagan religion, you worship idols, and then was it kind of hard for you to embrace the practice in a way, like it's not that what you like, it's not your religion, but in a way you are, whatever you are, the, I would call it the rituals in it, does it kind of block your mind? If I do the certain ritual, I may have crossed the line and I may have do the sin, and if I say
No.
om, or if I say namaste.
Honestly, I don't think any of it has that. I mean, there's clearly they interact with one another, but truthfully, I actually feel like it's a nice compliment. I think it gets me to a place that if I go to my synagogue, I can meditate better, like spiritually. I could get there. I can clear my mind and actually get there when I need to get there. I look at like Hinduism, like you said, you're saying that it was more of a community, a culture. It arose from um, the jobs that everybody did and the community and how it all came together. And that became scripture, different things that people said and whatnot, and the stories that were told. It's no different than Judaism. Judaism is a communal kind of religion. It's a culture in a lot of ways, just like Hinduism, just because one is believing in multi-God and one is believing in one God. And one is the one God, man is not God, right? It's just like this higher power, so to speak. So it's not, there's rituals, but I am a Reformed Jew. So I was raised a conservative Jew. So the conservative Jew is definitely more rigid. It's not like Orthodox I mean, I didn't grow up wearing the funny hats or the payas or any of that kind of stuff. Reform it's kind of like what works for your family. Like I was raised that Shabbat, Friday nights, it's not like churchy where you would go. You don't have to be in a physical building to pray to your higher power. You could be anywhere. So I kind of feel like there is similarities more than differences. Does that make sense?
Very true. That's what I said. The Vasudeva Kutumbakam was from the Hindu scriptures, which was written by the people who associate different chores to the different people of the community or the society. And then you said that the Jewish Center, Jewish Community Center here has the yoga. So
Yeah, the Jewish Community Center here in Omaha is, I mean, I'd say 50 or 60% are probably not Jewish, number one, because we only have like under 10,000 Jewish people in the city. So it's a beautiful facility and they have yoga and all sorts of other things, but they have multiple yoga classes. I choose not to teach there because I want it to be separate from, I want to be able to go and practice or exercise or do whatever I want to do without feeling like it's work. So like when I was at Lighthouse, I practiced there quite often, but it was different because I also practiced at other places. So it didn't feel like stressful or work or whatever, because you don't want to only be in one place if it feels like work or there's stress associated with it. But
That's so true.
getting back to your point, yes, there is no issue with the Jewish community having yoga because they don't see it as anything else, but they don't say, oh, we can't do it because it's like founded on Hindu. They would never ever do that. They're it it's the same teachers that you would see anywhere else, Jewish, non-Jewish, whatever, it doesn't even matter.
Very true. You know, what connect you is the love and anything that bring peace with it. That's very inspiring, and yoga is definitely a message of peace, that we gathered in a group or we leave the comfort of home and we join our friends, either a teacher teach us, because usually our teacher is doing yoga. When we are doing yoga, the teacher is doing the yoga, so it's
Yes,
just kind
yes.
of really connecting and fulfilling.
And by the way, there's that interfaith community area that is by the Jewish Community Center here. It's like
I was talking about that tri-faith.
the tri-faith. Yes. And the thing is like, that is what's so fabulous about, like, I don't know anything about the Christian side, but whether it's Muslim, Hindu, Judaism, you know, like, we're all here about it, we're here for each other. It is a global society, and that's something else, like the just the acceptance of it. That's the other thing. I love the community. You do get some people that are a little bit more like the hippie culture, but I think once you start growing, it becomes so much more than like a hippie culture. It is really about peace and acceptance and community.
That's very true, because right where we have a tri-faith, we have Hindu temples too.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest Hindu temples in in our town, and you know what happened usually when you know, especially Jason, when he think that I am in a way Indians, and look, civilization wise I'm Hindu. So he would say namaste, and one day we were just like, the first time when he came and saw me, I says, let's go out and walk. And we went to the Hindu temples, and we were peeking through the windows and seeing, and it was so, as I have the same feeling with your music, that's also one of the feeling that I had. Maybe it's like you fall in love, and that's the nice endorphin, the happy hormones that's it was like really, and I was so happy because Jason is much into yoga. He go to Shushini, he meditate a lot, and he was like kind of saying, oh, I'm gonna devote my whole life to it, and I'm never gonna be in a relationship. But when he saw me, he says, okay, you're from Hindu, and I says, okay, I'm from Hindu, yes I am. And then he says that was also a motivation for him to kind of have a relationship. Otherwise he says, I want to be like a guru, and like, have you heard the Baba Ramdas Guru? Because I am reading the book of what is this Apple guy called, oh gosh, I forgot names. I think I should
It's
go
okay.
back to, yeah, I should go back to yoga. My focus has been really
Believe me.
yeah, distorted. This Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
Even they says like the meditations and the visit to India had a huge impact on their entrepreneurship and their innovations and the technology.
Yes.
So that is also something that when people coming from the background and that they contributed so much to the community around their innovations, the whole world revolve, you know, it connects us. Bless his heart, the, you know, Apple founders and CEO Steve Jobs, and I'm sure he did such a miraculously great thing, because I'm just, my phone is iPhone, my laptop is iPhone, and I'm just kind
I'm
of,
all Apple.
I am all Apple too. I eat apple, one apple, one apple a day keep doctor away, and
Yes.
so many Apple gadgets connect us, bring us together.
Together.
I would, so this togetherness it's the message of yoga. It's the really the message of then, as you said, with the aging, you can't run. You don't have that energy and stamina. Your joint or wear and tear process of your vertebrae. And I guess the way yoga kind of it make you flexible, and it give longevity to the life. Do you agree
I would
with that?
agree.
Yeah, Alison, it was so nice to have you here, and we definitely enlighten and learn a lot from you. And in the future, we would love to have you again. And I would, I can't wait for a day when we see, because from the Lighthouse Yoga, they were having this recreational programs in, Puerto, I don't know which was that, in California somewhere, which was signing up for the student and teaching the 3-month retreat,
Oh
yoga
yeah, yeah,
retreat.
yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like in the future, if we have a chance, because the Christine, she went to India with her father and she really loved it. Because when I
Yes.
talked to her, she will be doing a podcast with me too. So we will heard her experience, and then maybe that will encourage you to kind of join me, and we can just have yoga in the Hindu Kush mountain.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I
Yeah,
would have
because
a whole different aspect and a whole different reality to it. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
with the real yogis, with the real professional gurus who are meditating and so much calmness. Because I am reading the book of Baba Ramdas Guru, and the way his experience was, it's so amazing. And I feel like, as you said, you love practicing yoga more with the nature. So maybe doing it in the in jungles, in the mountains of Kashmir's, the
Oh,
beautiful valleys.
yeah.
Just
Well, with you guiding me, absolutely.
maybe in the near future, because this is the world is connecting the world, the way it goes so crazy, the COVID, because we were
Yes.
so away. And now psychologists are saying that after the COVID is over, I don't know, maybe some of our reflexes to connect with people, to hug or touch. So I guess, I don't know, it will have a long lasting impact. And I guess yoga would be something to help us combat this, all
I would hope so, but I'm going to take you up on it. I would love to do that kind of trip with you, and but you have to be the guide. I will be the student. You will be the teacher.
I wish I can. I mean, you still be the teacher, because
Okay. Okay.
I will be the guide, as long as recommending you the local food. Do you know, as you said, you're Jewish, and you guys very selective in eating. You don't eat everything. Do
Well,
you?
actually, I am not kosher, so I do eat shellfish, but I don't eat pork. But it's not because of my religious beliefs. Like I said, I I am reformed, so we're not quite as strict. So but yeah, there's different things that between shellfish or pork or having meat and cheese or meat and dairy mixed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Indians eat meat and cheese. They don't eat just like pork and beef. That's just
You don't
maybe
eat
fish.
you don't eat shellfish, right? Or
You
pork.
eat fish, I guess. I don't. I eat fish, salmon. I eat salmon.
Well, yeah, but shellfish. Like a shrimp.
Oh, shrimp, I eat.
Oh, okay. Then I'm thinking, well, if you're kosher, you don't eat this. So you're
Oh,
not
okay.
kosher.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. We have where we live. It's called Haru. It's the holy place. Wherever Jewish community lives, they have this one holy place. It's called. I don't. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Haru something. On a Pacific Street 120th, we have a synagogue here. So the Jewish community that I see every day, they are like all very Orthodox Jews.
Oh yeah, they're Orthodox, and they're yeah, 125th Pacific is Orthodox, and then there is on let's wait, 132nd and Dodge, that's conservative, and then Temple Israel is Reform,
Oh, okay.
and
That's
I'm
good.
Reform.
Okay. Now we learned something from you. I thought it's all just kind of, like the way we have different communities. So now also like one is very much kind of orthodox, who are very strict in their diet and practice. Because the good thing for us is whenever they're passing through the shortcut, they go through our backyard, and I always
Oh,
have
and
to
they go
say
to
hi to them.
school. They go to school.
Yeah, I have to say hi to them. And on the New Year's, the horn they blew
Yeah,
it.
Rosh Hashanah
Yeah, Rosh
and Yom
Hashanah.
Kippur.
Yes, the rabbi who was passing by, and he came and he just did that here, and we were so happy. And he said that's such a day, and me and Jason, we are not supposed to talk, and then we didn't talk for a whole day. And then they says we believe that everyone's mother is a Jewish. So I consider myself my mother and me. We think that, and the rabbi was saying, is any one of you is Jews? And I says, well, I guess it's just maybe you don't know. It's so much like we're so much connected. Maybe
You never know.
you never know. And but I always love kind of, I don't know, for with me it's I love rituals. Every
Yeah.
religion is ritual. It revolves around a message, it revolves around unity and beauty. So I love rituals personally so much.
I do too. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming, Allyson. The time passes so by. It's already 1 hour has passed.
I know. Well, we're both doctors. What can I say?
Here is a message for you. She's Jewish, ma'am. Please visit Kolkata. We have synagogue made by Baghdadi Jews who came to India at the time of King Solomon for trade, and many settled here.
Oh, awesome.
I told you, we have in Afghanistan we have a synagogue and only one Jewish. If you go there, then there will be two.
Oh, yes, but there used to be a very Jewish community there. I mean, like hundreds of years ago.
There was a lot, but in the war they all migrated to Israel from Iran and Afghanistan. But in India, they still, as I told you, India is one of the world's biggest secular democracy, and they have so much diversity there that everyone is so much like kind of having the freedom to practice and preach what you wanted to. They're very open and very warm and welcoming. So,
well, like I said, I'm in. Take me there.
sure, we will go after pandemic.
I'll go to yours, you go to mine.
Sure.
Well, say hi to Jason too.
Sure, I will. It was so nice having you here. You have a good night and namaste.
Namaste. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.